just find it so interesting because joy is something we know for sure, if we can admit, that the enemy really likes to come and attack. Joy is that sense of drive, right? It can drive you through that season, or it can drive you even through that moment or that day. And so if you can attack that, the very source of your sustenance, then bam, he's got you. Today's energy is brought to you by Malta Guinness, non-alcoholic, obviously. Oh, thank you very much, Malta, for sponsoring this video. Okay, so welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new here, I'm Krupa and I make faith-based content here on YouTube. By the way, I am wearing a top. If you can't see it or you see it here and there, just know I am wearing a top. This morning, when I was spending time with the Lord, journaling, obviously, if you've been part of this channel for a hot minute, you know that I love to talk about journaling. I feel like every video I'm going to be talking about journaling, but here's proof that I have been journaling this morning. I was looking through old entries, right, and I could see the common theme was that waiting on something that I've been expecting for a very long time had become so long and so demotivating. And so if that sounds like something you're dealing with, then keep on watching, because we are talking all things how to navigate such seasons. I just want to start off by saying I have seen my fair share of valley moments. And when I say valley moments, I mean when the hour just seems so dark and the light in the tunnel just seems so far out of reach. And so I just want to say everything that I'm going to be saying today comes from a place of having been through that. But also, let's bear in mind, life is dynamic, right? And so you might be on a mountain high right now, and then bam, you have now entered the valley moments. And that's okay, right? Because that's just part of life. So better to be prepared than not to be prepared, right? So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay, so let's begin at number one, and that is, remember that God is not distant, right? Although it might feel like that. So I remember very clearly in my dry seasons, I'm gonna call it dry seasons because let's be real, sometimes it feels that way, right? When you're expecting something at a certain time. Also me, I like to be organized, right? And so if something doesn't happen at a time that I gave it, I'm like, there is something wrong. And now it's starting to feel like a dry season, very much so. I remember very clearly that in those dry seasons, it just felt like, is God distant from me? Has he forsaken me? Has he gone somewhere and like nowhere to be found? Where is he? If that is something that you're feeling currently, I just want to remind you, that is really not true. Our daughter, Zoe, who's such a cutie pie, she really wants to explore plugs and sockets at the minute. So she wants to put her tiny cute little fingers into the sockets, and we know, hello, that's very dangerous. But she doesn't quite understand that. She just thinks, oh my gosh, so much fun, so many things to explore, right? And so myself as a parent who's got the oversight of this whole situation knows that actually it's better to be safe than to be sorry. And so when I take the plugs away from her, or when I take her away from those sockets, we are guaranteed some tears, maybe some kicking. Recently she's learnt to like bang on my chest to let me know like this is very upsetting, and I wouldn't dare to put her down and say, do you know what, your attitude stinks, you're being annoying, I'm gonna walk away. Instead, I hold her close and I'm like, I know, but also I use the opportunity to give her loads of kisses to let her know I'm there for her, right? If I've learned anything from motherhood, it's this, that it's really hard to see ourselves as children, right? But in the grand scheme of things, we really are like children unto him, right? And so I just couldn't ever imagine leaving Zoe in those moments, and I feel like the father would never even dream of distancing himself from us because what, like we're feeling distressed from a season? No way. And by the way, just want to put a little disclaimer out. I forgot to do this in my intro, but I just want to say I'm only coming from experience, right? I'm not a teacher, I'm not a reverend, I'm just somebody that's walked with the Lord for nearly 10 years, and I'm just bringing my experience, because I feel like sometimes the Christian community No, we've got to do better basically. And so please don't come at the comments with all these negative, like, I thought we're supposed to be part of the Lord and not part of the world. Oh, shush, please. Yeah, sorry, Marge, okay? So number 2 is let's ask God what he wants to develop in us. I'm not gonna keep plugs from Zoe all her life, right? It's only because I know that her brain hasn't quite developed yet to know that this is unsafe or this is safe. It's important to ask God what he wants to prune in us in that process of waiting. I feel like almost always there's something that he's doing in our character, there's something that he's trying to form in our lives, in our context, and so sometimes that delay might be a process in which he takes us through to prune us to be ready for that, if that makes sense. So asking God what he wants to develop in us will probably speed things up. Don't hold me to that, but I mean, maybe. Okay, and so number 3 is to protect your joy and to drink from the source of all sources of joy. I know that in dry seasons, joy can be so fleeting. Let's be real, it's temporary. Some days you wake up at the right side of the bed and you're like, whoa, I can conquer all things. And then some days you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you're like, oh my gosh, this day is so long already, right? And I just find it so interesting because joy is something we know for sure, if we can admit, that the enemy really likes to come and attack. Joy is that sense of drive, right? It can drive you through that season, or it can drive you even through that moment or that day. And so if you can attack that, the very source of your sustenance, then bam, he's got you, right? The Bible says the joy of the Lord is our strength. And I remember asking the Lord, like, okay, I want the joy of the Lord. Like, what does that look like? I know what joy feels like, but what does the joy of the Lord look like? And why is it the joy of the Lord? And in my asking and in my questioning, I found something that changed the game for me. And it's this. As a father, he has already seen how fleeting our joy can be, right? And so the joy of the Lord, for me anyway, like I said, I'm not a Bible scholar or a teacher or a reverend, okay? I'm just speaking what I've seen of the Bible. And so the joy of the Lord is so interesting to me because I feel like as a father, he's already counteracted that fleeting, temporary joy that can sometimes come in and go out so easily, and has replaced it with the joy of himself that's sustainable, that's constant, that's never changing. I just think that's so beautiful because not only has he provided, but he's also saying, like, I feel you, I hear you, I see you, I acknowledge you, and I know that this is the reality of the world that you live in. Sometimes it's so fleeting, and so here is what I want to give to you. But also, I find it so interesting because everything comes down to relationship if you really think about it. Like, the Lord is saying, like, yeah, when you run out of your joy, like, come to me, draw from me, like, draw close to me. My joy will be your strength. And I think that's just so beautiful, actually, the more I think about it. That's so cool. I wish I could be like that to Zoe, like, Zoe, you know, if you're ever upset, you can always draw from me and I'll give you joy. But I don't know how I'll do that because my joy is so fleeting. But I'm thankful that the joy of the Lord is not. Number 4 is, it's not about the promise, but almost always about the process. In your dry season, now is the time to get closer to the Lord. I just don't feel like any process of waiting is ever passive, right? It's always active. And so in the times of, like, having done all that you can do to get this thing that you really want and that you're expecting and waiting for, I think there's something so much more that the Lord might want to do in us, right? And that is to just draw close to him. It's just so interesting. Now that I'm a mum, I feel like I'm gonna always draw back to this analogy, but when Zoe's upset, I secretly love that she comes to me to draw comfort from, right? And I feel like the Lord is the same in some ways. There's so many scriptures about drawing close to him, and he will comfort us, and he will never leave us nor forsake us, and give us all that we need to sustain else. I feel like in such seasons, it's the prime time to get closer to him and not drift away, which is something so naturally done, right? I've done it so many times. Yeah, spending time with him just looks different. It might look like worship. It might look like tears, right? Let's be real. It might look like hiding under the quilt because the day just seems so overbearing already. But please, 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 like, if you're gonna take anything from this video, let it be this. Press into him all the more. And I'm sure as I cuddle Zoe and as she feels my warmth when she's distressed and she comes to me, that you will also feel that same strength and that same comfort from him. So before I get into my next point, if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you give this video a like. It really helps this channel out. Number 5 is search your heart during that season. We often read in the Bible about idol worshipping and idols in general, and I think for most people, at least myself anyway, I was imagining those idols to be physical idols, right? Statues. Although it is obviously that, but it can also be something that has taken a lot of your heart's and your mind's capacity. So let me give you an example. Like, I say when I was like 22 to 24, those 2 years, I was so desperately looking to be married that all I could see is like a potential husband or a potential relationship there. I remember it taking up so much of my capacity to do other things because I was so engrossed with like this one particular thing. Like my mind was so tunnel focused on just this one thing, as if it was like the be all and end all of my life. In some ways, I would say actually I did make an idol of it, hence why I didn't actually get what I wanted, because I guess I just put something in a pedestal that just needs not to be on that pedestal, right? Because marriage, as much as it's lovely, or maybe a baby, as much as it's a blessing, or maybe the best job ever, as much as it's a blessing, is not and cannot be the foundation of your identity, right? It's not sustainable. It's not something that can hold you. Yeah, sometimes I feel like the dry seasons of waiting could have been cut down so short if I had just acknowledged that I'm giving this too much importance right now. I need to take it down a notch, basically. And so that's my last point. Ask God to help you to search your heart, and if anything is taking up too much capacity, too much headspace, then it's got to go down a notch or two and give God that space again. If that makes sense? Does that make sense? So I hope that you're encouraged from those 5 things that I've learned navigating my dry seasons of waiting. Because sometimes, like I said, it is long. And so these things really helped me to either get a crack on with my relationship with the Lord or just to wait on Him with joy, right? I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked this video, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well and join the tribe. Oh, I like that one. Join the tribe. Yes, I love that one. So yeah, subscribe, join the tribe, like this video if you enjoyed it, and check out my previous video, which is part of a series that I'm doing here on my channel called New Baby Mama. And so do make sure you check it out, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye!